Hi everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing well as usual. So I've been away for a couple of weeks. Welcome back to the channel. What I'm going to do today, because of recently I was doing some contest entries and so on, is go back to my existing CD collection. So you can probably tell from the title, what I'm going to do today is another edition of Ranking Discographies, a mini edition. That's because it's a certain segment of a band. So in today's video, I'm talking about the last of my KISS collection. So if you've been watching, you'll recall I did a 70s albums ranking and an 80s albums ranking, and then also an episode on just miscellaneous material like live albums and solo albums. So what's left when you discard all of that material is just the studio albums from the 90s onwards. So what I'm going to do today is talk about those 5 studio albums and show them, and in addition to that, actually rank them just to make it a bit more interesting. So they went through various phases in the 90s and beyond. Like there was partly an unmasked era and then a masked era and then new members coming in. So it's a very diverse period over the last, let's say, 22 years, 1990 to 2012 when they released their last album, Monster. So yes, I'm just going to put these, I know there were various incarnations of the band, but I'm just going to rank the albums anyway from my least favorite to favorite. So number 5 being least favorite, number 1 favorite. Having said that, with the 5 albums that I'm going to talk about today, I actually like all of them. So any ones which come towards the bottom, it's not a case that I hate those albums, not at all. I do like them, it's just I like other albums more. That's how rankings work, inevitably. So of the 5 today, I think they're all good and some excellent. So we're just going to get straight into this now. I'll just explain as well that with 2 of the albums, I don't actually own them, so I won't be showing the CD. Okay, yeah, so with 2 of them, I'm just going to talk about them because I don't own them yet. With these particular albums, I just haven't been in a hurry to buy them yet, but if I do see them at a reasonable price, I will pick them up because I've heard them, I do like them. So let's get started anyway, enough rambling, enough precursors. Okay, so talking about studio album number 5, so my least favorite from the 90s onwards, but I still think it's a really good album, is Carnival of Souls from 1995. So the full name of this album is Carnival of Souls, The Final Sessions, and I remember when I saw the CD in a shop, at first I thought it was like a bootleg album or some leftover demos, something like that, but no, it was actually the band's last studio album with the lineup from the early 90s, which featured Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, Bruce Kulick and Eric Singer on drums. So that was the lineup for the 1992 album For Revenge, the same one for Carnival of Souls. And when I didn't realize this, but I later read that it was sort of like the band's grunge album. So, grunge was flavor of the month in the early to mid 90s, especially the mid 90s. So a lot of bands, sort of tried their hand at that sound, especially because, traditional heavy metal and hard rock was kind of going out of fashion at the time. But fuck all that, the music was still good anyway. But, bands, wanted to follow trends and so on. But I will say this. When I first heard that KISS did a grunge album, I thought, that sounds absolutely terrible, like the idea. But of course, because they're very talented musicians, when I actually, shock horror, gave the album a chance, I actually found that it was really good. So Carnival of Souls is an excellent album. Basically, it sounds like Alice in Chains. That's probably the band they're mimicking most on this album, but imbuing it with that KISS stamp and identity, especially with Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons lead vocals on that. So imagine that. It's like a mixture of Alice in Chains and KISS vocals. And the results are really good, I have to say. So no real bad songs on this album. I've listened to it a few times and really enjoy it. Probably my favorite songs on this album are the majority, actually. There's the song Rain. Now this is interesting. I was talking about Alice in Chains. Even, Alice in Chains have that song Rain When I Die. This song's called Rain, and I think Paul even says in the chorus, I think it's gonna rain. Just like in the Alice in Chains song. So very clear influence of Alice in Chains on this album. I also really like Master and Slave, Childhood's End, Jungle. In My Head is a great track. That's a Paul Stanley track. It Never Goes Away is really good. And interestingly, this album, the final track, is entitled I Walk Alone. And that's the only song to ever feature lead guitarist Bruce Kulick on lead vocals. So I was really curious to hear that. And I actually really like his voice. And, that's always a novelty in KISS because, of course, Paul and Gene are the main singers. With the original lineup, Ace and Peter occasionally sang songs. And then other members like Eric Carr sometimes one song, Little Caesar. But yeah, just hearing Bruce Kulick sing lead vocals on a track, it's really good. So I Walk Alone, a very interesting track. Yeah, so overall, I really like this album, so I don't hate it at all. It just happens to come at the bottom because I think there are other albums that are better. And I suppose, in a sense, the band, I praise them for doing something different, but it's not really classic Kiss, so maybe that's also why it's at the bottom, but certainly an interesting album because they're trying their hand at grunge, and it's a good result. So yeah, that's I would definitely recommend it. Don't be put off by my description. Check it out because it is actually a really catchy album. So coming in at number 5, Carnival of Souls from 1995. Okay, coming in at number 4 is another album which I don't physically own by the band, and that is the album from 1996 entitled Psycho Circus. Shock horror. I know a lot of people are going to give me shit for this, I'm sure, because this was the album where, after the original lineup reunited following the MTV Unplugged show, so Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley sadly, had to fire Eric Singer and Bruce Kulick, so Ace and Peter could come back into the band. So it was kind of bittersweet, because the other members were really good, they had to leave, but of course everyone wanted the original members back as well. So they launched a very successful reunion tour in '96, I think, and as a result of that, then they said, okay, we're going to make a new album as well. So everyone was very excited. It was a highly anticipated album, Psycho Circus. So the 4 original members in full makeup making music again. So a lot of you are probably saying, then why is it so low in your ranking? Why is it number 4? Look, I don't think it's a bad album at all. I just think there are other albums which are better than this one. And you also have to remember this, while it was purportedly the original lineup, it all wasn't as it seemed. In reality, Peter Criss, just like on Dynasty, he only played drums on one track. I think he was prevented or vetoed from playing drums on the album, and he only sang his one song, I Finally Found My Way. And I think he helped Ace work on his song, so not because they wanted to, but because the band and the management stipulated. But Ace and Peter's contributions were minimal on this album. It was sort of like, the big muscle in the band, like Paul and Gene and management, dictating how the album went. And in addition to that, Gene Simmons didn't even play bass on this album, I don't think. I think it was apparently Bruce Kulick who had been fired from the band or, unceremoniously asked to leave. So it was sort of, in terms of the image, everyone expected to be this big reunion album, but behind the scenes it all wasn't as it seemed. Having said that, I think it's still a really good album. Just talking about it a bit, I just think with this album, why it comes in at number 4, because there are a lot of songs where I just find good or okay as opposed to excellent, but there are some really good standout tracks. I would say the overall majority of Psycho Circus is solid. One critic actually described this as, they described it as a set of big dumb pop metal songs, whatever the fuck that means, and I think that's pretty harsh actually. However, I can say, not dumb exactly, but it does sound a bit cheesy in parts. Cheesy is not necessarily bad, but in addition to that, it's got a beefed up modern 90s production, very heavy, but it was maybe a little bit too modern. It didn't quite sound like complete Kiss, if you ask me. Some songs certainly did, but there are other ones where it sort of meandered into sort of alternative metal territory, and nothing wrong with that, but it was just, I find it less consistent than other albums. But yeah, talking about some of my favorite songs, everyone knows the title track, Psycho Circus. I think that song's okay. I used to find it boring, and I'm still not into it all that much. Having said that, it has grown on me a bit. It is a good, hooky, catchy song, so Psycho Circus. But some of my other favorites are I Pledge Allegiance to the State of Rock and Roll. That's classic Paul Stanley, really heavy rocking song, very catchy. I also like We Are One, which is a very anthemic song. It is a bit cheesy, I have to admit, but again, cheesy is not necessarily bad. We Are One, it just very much sticks in your head, especially with the chorus. I also like You Wanted the Best. That's one which has a lead vocal cameo from all 4 members, so just for that novelty alone, it is a great song, but it is a very catchy rocking song as well, so You Wanted the Best, brilliant. I also really like Raise Your Glasses, another very catchy, anthemic, hypnotic chorus, which is really good. And to my surprise, to your surprise probably as well, a song that's grown on me lately is I Finally Found My Way. If you've been watching my channel, you know recently I included that in my top 10 least favorite Kiss songs, but I've actually had a complete turnaround with that song. So that's a ballad sung by Peter, it was written by Paul, and I suppose they're going back to that traditional formula. They thought, Peter had that big hit with Beth, so we're going to write a similar kind of song, even though Paul wrote it. But then again, Paul wrote Hard Luck Woman too, so nothing wrong with that. And yeah, I Finally Found My Way. I used to dislike it because I found it, it's like a piano ballad, and it's very sad and depressing. But I just can't deny, Peter has got such a fantastic voice, and he sings so well on that particular song. very emotive, and Paul Stanley also does some backing vocals, so when you hear them blend, it's really cool. And even though I'm not a fan of the Beatles, really, it sounds kind of Beatles-esque, but just that them creating that kind of music is interesting. So I Finally Found My Way is a really good song. So I've mentioned some of my favorites there, and then there's about 4 or 5 which I think are just like okay, but I mean not terrible by any means. But for that reason, yes, it is the original lineup, and this might be considered Kiss blasphemy. But if I'm looking honestly, like regardless of lineups or regardless of era, I just think other albums are better than this one. So coming in at number 4 from 1996 is Psycho Circus. All right, so now finally you get to see some CDs in this video, some visuals. So we're talking about my third favorite album. So coming in at number 3, this is Monster from 2012. So if you're not aware, this was the band's last studio album, and this featured the masked lineup of Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, Tommy Thayer, and Eric Singer. So just to give you some background on that, after the reunion tour, Peter was the first to leave, Peter the drummer, and then Ace left shortly afterwards in 2002. But then the band decided they wanted to continue, so they got Eric Singer, who had played on Revenge, back on drums and in the Catman makeup, and Tommy Thayer on lead guitar playing the spaceman role. So yes, there was a lot of outrage about that, like Tommy and Eric wearing Ace and Peter's makeup. I can see both sides of the argument. Like, I think they really, in my opinion, they should have had their own makeup style, you know, like Eric being the Hawk or something like that. I really think they deserve that, but I can see the other side of it, that Kiss had sort of become a brand and it's that iconic imagery. But yeah, I'm sure with a lot of people gave Tommy and Eric a lot of shit about wearing this, but I mean, how can you turn down a gig like this? They were just members of the band, and I think they did a really good job. They're both brilliant musicians and singers for that matter. So Eric Singer is a good singer, and so is Tommy Thayer. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have to rank Psycho Circus above this one just because it has the original lineup. I'm talking about objectively because of the music. So if you've heard me talk about this album, you'll know that I've said when it first came out, I was really excited about it, and then that excitement wore off pretty quickly, and I actually thought this album was quite boring. But I've since changed my tune because I've gone back and listened to it. It's aged very well. I can't exactly say how, but just when I've listened to it a few times recently, I thought, I know these songs much better than I thought I did, maybe because they're so catchy, and there's not really any bad songs on this album. The production's really good. It's got, I think it was produced with analog. It's got a really heavy metallic guitar sound, so that's really cool. And honestly speaking, there's only 2 songs which I dislike, and even those songs aren't that bad. They are Wall of Sound, which is a Gene song, and what's the other? Long Way Down, sung by Paul, which was, ironically, that was a single. Now, those 2 songs aren't absolutely terrible. I just don't find them all that exciting. And then there's some other ones where I think they're okay to good. So those ones would be, let me see, like Eat Your Heart Out and The Devil Is Me, Gene songs, and they're both pretty good. Also, they're the okay songs. So the rest of the songs, so I've mentioned 2 I dislike, 2 that I find okay. The rest I really enjoy, like the opening track, Hell or Hallelujah. This is the band, especially now they're back in full makeup. They were reviving that classic 70s sound with modern production, but Hell or Hallelujah is just such a typically Paul Stanley rocking song. It's really good. I also really like the song Freak. I thought that was a bit cheesy with the verse vocal melodies, but I really love the chorus, and I love that bridge in the song where they say, I pledge allegiance to the state of independence. Very catchy stuff. So Freak is a good song. Coming up next to my favorite song on the album, Back to the Stone Age. That's a Gene song. It's just so incredibly catchy, rocking, brilliant guitar solos from Tommy Thayer, and the main riff is just awesome. You know, that dan-na-na-na-na-na-na. I may edit that out because I can't sing for shit. But yeah, that riff is really good, and Gene does the I like it in the song, and I always crack up at that bit in a good way, of course. So Back to the Stone Age, really shouty, anthemic chorus as well. And then the next song, Shout Mercy, again, that's going straight back to classic 70s Kiss, and it's reminiscent of Rock and Roll Over. I think of the song Mr. Speed from Rock and Roll Over. When you hear that guitar riff in it, it's very similar to the riff in Mr. Speed. You know, he says, get up, put out, that's what we're all about. It sounds very much like Mr. Speed, so that's cool. Now, talking about the new members, makeup members singing their solo songs, 2 of my favorite songs on the album are by them. So first of all, we have Out of This World, which is sung by Tommy Thayer. It's funny, I've heard a lot of people say when Tommy sings lead vocals, he's trying to sound like Ace. I don't think so. Like the first time I ever heard Tommy sing lead vocals was on the album Sonic Boom, the song When Lightning Strikes. And I thought, is this Gene or isn't it? Like Tommy had a kind of like slick and more polished version of Gene's voice, at least on the song When Lightning Strikes. But it is kind of Ace-esque, but I don't think Tommy was trying to imitate anyone specifically. This is just how he sings. And of course, he had backing vocal credits in Black and Blue, one of my favorite bands, and he did a great job. Like Jamie St. James was the main vocalist, but Tommy did the majority of the backing vocals, so he's an accomplished singer. But Out of This World, it's just like a catchy, straightforward rocker, great vocal melodies, great guitar solos, big anthemic chorus, and I love the live rendition of this, which I saw the band play on the Monster tour, and I thought that's really cool that they included Tommy's song, in a live setting for that tour. So Out of This World. Some people, I don't know, hate Tommy and Eric, and I don't understand that. But if you just objectively sit and listen to the music, you'll think it's really good. I think so. Out of This World is a great song. I've heard other people say that song is similar to his song from the previous album, When Lightning Strikes. I respectfully disagree because I think the vocal melodies are different, but the song has a similar kind of pace and intensity, but the vocals are different. Then we have All for the Love of Rock and Roll, which is a song sung by Eric Singer. And again, that's very reminiscent of Rock and Roll Over, a bit like Mr. Speed again and Hard Luck Woman, like combining that. Eric his voice isn't as raspy as Peter's, like it's more sort of clean and pure, but yeah, it's a good song. Very catchy chorus and riffs in that song. My only criticism of that song is that lyric in it when he's talking about meeting fans and he says, that's when you notice there's a ring on her finger, that's when she tells you that she's single tonight. I'm like, bragging about sleeping with married women, I don't know about that. But anyway, maybe I'm reading into it too much. Maybe I'm just not rock and roll enough. But anyway, it's a good song, All for the Love of Rock and Roll. And then the last two, Take Me Down Below. That's like a Gene and Paul duo. They take turns singing lines, so a bit similar to Shout It Out Loud. And, by the way, Hell or Hallelujah has a kind of Detroit Rock City reprise, the get up, get down, but they say lay down, stay down in Hell or Hallelujah. So Take Me Down Below is a bit of a reprise of Shout It Out Loud, I would say. And funny lyrics in that song, like it's all sexual innuendo, but in some ways almost too over the top and tacky, but it is funny. But amazing big sing-along anthemic chorus in Take Me Down Below. And the album closes with Last Chance, which is just a straightforward, catchy rocker. And what makes this song so good, I think it's Paul who sings it, but Gene does the backing vocals, but the chorus is very catchy, and Gene does that, like in the background. See, that sounded terrible there, but trust me, it's very catchy stuff. So, really good album. So 12 songs. Of the 12, I really like 8, and there are 2 I dislike and 2 I just find okay. But overall, you can tell I really like this. I've got the long sleeve t-shirt of this. I was gonna wear it for today, but it's too hot. So all the members in makeup there. Yeah, so like I said, lyrics here and pictures of the band. I used to think this was a bit of a disappointing and boring album, but I think it's aged well, and I really enjoy it now. Yeah, it's a solid listen, so don't be put off by the fact, I think all these elitist snobs who say, oh, it's not the original lineup, just listen to the music, it's really good. So coming in at number 3 from 2012, the band's final album, Monster. Okay, so we're coming up to the final 2 now. Alright, so coming in at number 2 for me is Sonic Boom from 2009. So this is the album which came out just before Monster, like 3 years before Monster. This was the first album to feature the band members in makeup, including the new members, so Tommy and Eric, so replacing Ace and Peter respectively. And I remember when this first came out, I was really excited and I was not disappointed. I absolutely love this album. It's similar to Monster, except I think the production is better. And in addition to that, and more importantly, the songs are just even catchier than Monster. So Monster was very good, this is excellent. Like, again, they're returning to their 1970s sound because they've got the full makeup and everything, so they're specifically writing in that style. And I know a lot of people criticize Tommy for playing Ace's licks or his style of guitar solos, but that was the band sound by this point, so they're not going to get someone who sounds totally different or someone who's going to play something completely different. He's playing in Ace's style, but he does it really well. So many good songs on this. In fact, there are no songs I dislike on this album. So it starts with Modern Day Delilah, which is sort of like a classic Paul Stanley opener, which is good. Track 2, Russian Roulette, a Gene song. I really like that. Extremely catchy riff, and vocal melodies and sections in that song, you know, like that, yeah, just very catchy. Never Enough is a song sung by Paul, and that sounds a little bit similar to Nothing But a Good Time by Poison, at least in the verses, you know, the vocal melodies, it's very much like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if Bret Michaels sued them over that, but yeah, it is a good song. And then of course the pre-chorus and chorus are totally different, and they're very catchy, so Never Enough is a good song. Then we have Yes I Know, Nobody's Perfect, a song sung by Gene, also very catchy. What's really good about this album is the choruses are so catchy and anthemic, because they have all 4 members doing backing vocals, and it just sounds so powerful, like a mob or a crowd singing these songs, and it's ecstatic to listen to, honestly, so that's really good. Then we have the track Stand, where it's like Gene and Paul are doing the interplay of the vocals, so taking turns with that, and it's a very sort of anthemic, epic, emotional song. It's really good, and I really like the bridge in that song, where it slows down and gets really mellow, and they do those harmonized vocals, you know, stand by my side, we'll get by, you and I. Cheesy, but very catchy stuff, so it's really good. Then we have the song Hot and Cold, which, to my delight, is a reprise of Love 'Em Leave 'Em. So Love 'Em Leave 'Em from Rock and Roll Over, that's my favorite 70s Kiss song of all time. So Hot and Cold is sort of like, it's not exactly the same, but the riffing style is similar, and the chorus is very similar, especially like when he says too hot, too cold at the end, it sounds like Love 'Em Leave 'Em, yeah, like same melody. So and by the way, like Tommy's guitar solos are fucking scorching throughout this album, so really good. Then we have the track All for the Glory, which is drummer Eric is singing on that song, lead vocals, and that's a really good one as well. Especially I like the bridge again, where they do those vocal harmonies, you know, with the backing vocals, the bouncing kind of vocals, like all for one, you know, it's just bouncing, but it sounds really cool. Danger Us, not dangerous, but Danger Us is a very catchy Paul song. Really infectious chorus in that, where like Paul sings the vocals and then the other 3 guys do the backing vocals to mirror it. It just makes it stick in your head. Really good one. Good chorus as well. Danger You, Danger Me, Danger Us. Then we have I'm an Animal, which is a Gene song, very heavy, sort of like a reprise of maybe God of Thunder, or If You're Feeling Generous, or Almost Human from Love Gun, you know, that kind of like manly caveman monster kind of song. So I'm an Animal is a good one. Then we have Tommy's track When Lightning Strikes, which is like a straightforward mid-pace rocker. And like I said, when the first time I heard Tommy singing on this song, I thought it was Gene, but his voice is a bit more polished, but really like his voice, excellent guitar solos on this song, and the chorus again with those ecstatic, excellent backing vocals, it's just brilliant. And when, especially at the end, when they're just doing it on repeat, it's like a football chant with everyone singing along. When Lightning Strikes, it's a great song. And then the album closes with Say Yeah. Incredibly atmospheric guitars on this song, and melodic, and just, yeah, Paul Stanley showing that he's still got it as a songwriter. Just really good stuff. And I know the chorus is a bit simple, like, let me hear you say yeah, 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 but combined with the music and singing, it's really good. And I was very pleased to see that on their End of the Road tour, they included Say Yeah as part of their set, so it is a good song. Yep, so as you can see, as opposed to Monster, where I said there's some songs I dislike, this album, in my opinion, has no bad songs. Sorry about that. Okay, so just showing you the cover. I got this one at Concerto Records in Amsterdam. Mark, you might know it. And just for €5, because it was secondhand, which is cool. So this comes in a digipack, folds out with all members on the cards there. So we have, there's Tommy, Gene, Paul, and where is Eric? Where's Eric gone? Ah, that's weird. They don't include Eric's portrait on this one. But anyway, yeah, now you can see here is the disc. Very cool. And because this is also a show and tell, I'm going to talk about these discs. You get 2 discs here. So these are bonus ones. You have, this one's called Kiss Classics with a K, which is basically re-recordings of all their old classic songs from the 70s and some 80s songs as well. So it's with this current lineup, re-recording those songs. But what they do is they try to stay as close to the studio version of the original as much as possible. But it's good, that's really good, and it's also a bonus because the production is a lot cleaner and it's a lot better. So with those re-recorded versions, they have Deuce, Detroit Rock City, Shout It Out Loud, Hotter Than Hell, Calling Dr. Love, Love Gun, I Was Made for Loving You, Heaven's on Fire, Lick It Up, I Love It Loud, Forever, Christine 16, Do You Love Me, Black Diamond, and Rock and Roll All Night. So that's in itself is a great greatest hits album, but really interesting to hear the original lineup re-recording. Oh, sorry, the band re-recording those songs with some new members, Tommy and Eric, but trying to mimic the original version as closely as possible. And then it also comes with a DVD. This is Kiss live in Buenos Aires. I haven't actually seen that yet, so I should get to that. Yeah, because my DVD players don't really work all that much anymore, I don't watch DVDs all that much, but I will get around to watching that. But pretty cool, 3-disc set. And the studio album itself, like Sonic Boom, is an absolute classic album. So definitely, again, I would recommend this one strongly. Don't be put off by the fact that there's some non-original members in there. What matters ultimately is the music. And this album is catchy from beginning to end. So that's Kiss with Sonic Boom. Okay, which leaves just one last album in the collection from the 90s, which is undoubtedly my favorite. Like, if you look at it this way, I'm not saying Sonic Boom is my second favorite. That's number 2. Number 1 is way up here. This is number 1 by a long way. And this is Revenge from 1992. So this was the first album they ever did from the 90s. So basically continuing that 80s lineup. Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, and Bruce Kulick, who had been the lead guitarist since 1985's Asylum. Very sadly though, drummer Eric Carr had passed away of cancer at this point. He passed away in 1991, so he was replaced by Eric Singer, the guy with the blonde hair, who had played in other bands like Badlands and Black Sabbath and Alice Cooper, so a well-known session metal drummer. And why I like this album the most of these 90s and beyond albums is simply the fact that it is undoubtedly the catchiest. Like, every song on this album is so hooky and so catchy, you can't help but sing along. You learn the songs really quickly, and just even the riffs, you sing along to those. It's just very catchy, and it has this metallic crunch. Like, have a look at the band here. They're all clad in these long leather suits. The album's called Revenge, so it's a statement, I think. Coming back from, Hot in the Shade was a somewhat lackluster album, even though I really do like it. But this album is obviously their mission to just kick as much ass as possible, write a really heavy, crunchy album, and that they did. In fact, I would say this is probably the heaviest Kiss album ever, contending with Creatures of the Night, which is also very heavy. But I think even the guitars on this one sound even way more metallic. And yeah, so maybe this is the heaviest Kiss album ever. So again, metal people who don't like Kiss, you might want to check this out. There was a friend of mine who wasn't really a big Kiss fan, but he said he loves this album the most. This is his favorite Kiss album of all time. I also know that Paul and Gene really like this album, but that's not the reason for me. I'm just saying independently, I love this album. There's only one track I don't like on it all that much, which is, I've mentioned this before, Every Time I Look at You, that's because it's a ballad. I'm not a fan of sappy ballads and, soppy love songs, so that's what that song's about, but maybe they just want to show that side as well. But yeah, every other song is really good. Like, it starts off with Unholy, where Gene is bringing his demon persona back. It's a really heavy, sinister track, awesome. Then track 2, Take It Off, which is sung by Paul. Really love the riff in that song. It's just it's 100% pure rock, and Bruce Kulick's lead guitars on that song and on this album in general are absolutely scorching and brilliant. So Take It Off, very catchy chorus as well. Really love that song. Tough Love, very catchy as well. Like, especially the chorus, you'll be singing along to that the first time you hear it. Tough Love is great. I also like the song Spit. It Don't Mean Spit to Me. Just I don't know, very rock and roll, very heavy. Again, that's a song Gene wrote about how he enjoys sleeping with fat women. And yeah, so some funny lyrics in that. Yeah, and Take It Off is about strip clubs. So I think they don't hold back with what they want to talk about in songs. Then of course, the hit single from this was God Gave Rock and Roll to You Too, written by Russ Ballard, and it was featured on the Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey movie. Yeah, very anthemic song. I really do like that song, I have to say. God Gave Rock and Roll to You. It's sort of like a snapshot of the band's career up to that point, I think, that song. Then we've got the song Domino, very catchy riff in that. Interesting piece of trivia. You know the song Domino, it came from the Black and Blue song Nasty Nasty. Black and Blue fans will know, if you hear the riff in Nasty Nasty, it is exactly that. And of course, Gene Simmons produced that Black and Blue album. So effectively, he ripped off the riff of that song, Nasty Nasty, to make it Domino. You know, the riff that goes, the main one. Yeah, that was basically from Black and Blue, so Tommy Thayer wrote that riff. But yeah, Domino is a very catchy chorus, has a catchy chorus, and I really love Eric Singer's drum fills in that, like the yeah, it's just so good. So Domino is a good one. Heart of Chrome, unbelievably catchy anthemic chorus. Really love it. Great, like, Paul is such a hooky songwriter. That song, fucking brilliant. So Heart of Chrome, really good. And then we have Thou Shalt Not, which is a Gene song. Pure crunch and heaviness. Very anthemic chorus once again. Absolutely brilliant. Then we have, yeah, the song I don't like so much, Every Time I Look at You. But if you like ballads, you might like that one. Then, then the next song is called Paralyzed. That's a Gene song. It's a heavy song, but that's perhaps not a standout track for me, but it's still decent enough, that song, so I do like it. Then we've got I Just Wanna, very catchy and heavy song. That was one of the singles from this album, which was co-written with Vinnie Vincent, you know, the shredder from Lick It Up who got fired for his personal problems, basically. Yes, he reunited with the band to write some material on this, including the song I Just Wanna. So maybe that's why it turned out so well, because his contributions are always good. But yeah, that's a good one. You know, that's the chorus is I just want to forget you, but they say it like I just want to fuck. So it's like a play on words, like I just want to fuck. And which indeed they encouraged when they did live performances of this, like on Alive 3. But yeah, I Just Wanna is really good. And then the album finishes with Car Jam. So that's a tribute to former drummer Eric Carr. I think what they did was he played this drum solo years and years ago, like in the early 80s. And then they isolated that track and then they added their own music and Bruce's leads. But if you listen very carefully, you will notice that that song, Car Jam, it actually comes from the Ace Frehley solo song, Breakout, which was featured on the album Frehley's Comet. So basically, they ripped off the music, like that song was written by Ace Frehley and Eric Carr, so the current lineup just kind of ripped that off a bit, and yeah, just added Bruce's leads, but it features a tremendous drum solo from Eric Carr, and that just makes it solidifies my belief that he's an absolutely top-notch, brilliant drummer. Like the solo, it has so much finesse and it sounds just so smugly and easily done, but it's really good. So yeah, no songs I dislike. You can tell I like every song, and the key words for this album, catchy, heavy, anthemic. Yep, gotta love it. So this is Kiss with Revenge, just showing you the back here. And yeah, lately I've been listening to this again, you know, before I did this ranking, picture of the boys there. Yeah, and it just reaffirmed, oh, this is such a good album. So it's easily my top one of the 5 90s and beyond albums. So remember, these albums are spanning from 1992 to 2012, so over a 20-year period, but coming in at number 1, Revenge by Kiss. All right, so that's it, guys. I've talked about 5 albums today, and the video has been going over half an hour, so I think that's a good time to stop. Let me know, tell me, what do you think about these albums? What do you think about the reunions? Anything Kiss related? Let's get some discussion going, especially if you want to talk about these albums. Like, I know these two, they get a lot of flack because they don't have the original members, but honestly, just listen to them because it's ultimately the music that counts, and they're excellent. But yeah, undoubtedly, this is my favorite. All right, so that's it, guys. In the next video, I've got another collection update talking about some new material which has come in, and that's going back to extreme metal and heavy metal as well. But you know, as always, there's plenty of ideas in the backlog, so I'm not going to run out of material just yet, and I hope to pump out a few more videos in the next few weeks. So thanks a lot for watching, and as always, thanks for your support of the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.